"You're not on the list," my brother said at his own wedding, standing inside the house I had purchased for him. That one sentence cost him $770,000. It cost my father his daughter, and it cost me the last tiny piece of hope that maybe one day my family would see me as one of their own. But what they did not know, what no one at that 200-guest reception understood, was that the roof above their heads still legally belonged to me, and just hours earlier, I had signed it over to someone else. Before I continue, take a second to like and subscribe, but only if you truly feel something from this story. Share your location and local time in the comments. I really want to know where you're watching from. My name is Sierra. I'm 31 years old, and this is the story of how I lost my family and finally found myself. Let me take you back 17 years, to the day my mother passed away, and everything in my life shifted. My mom died on a cold Tuesday in October. I was 14. She had been sick for 2 long years, ovarian cancer. By the end, she weighed less than I did, but she never stopped being the strongest person in any room she entered. She was the only one who treated Dalton and me equally. Dalton got a new bike, I got a new bike. He got help with his math homework, I got help with mine. She did not believe in picking favorites. She believed in fairness. The funeral was small. The sky was gray. The grass was wet. I still remember the smell of lilies mixed with damp soil. My father stood at the casket with his arm wrapped around Dalton. My brother was 16 then, already taller than Dad. Gerald, that's my father, pulled Dalton close and said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "You're the man of the house now, son." I was standing maybe 3 feet away. No one said anything like that to me. No one spoke to me at all except for one person, Patricia Callahan, Patty, my mother's best friend since college. After the service, when everyone slowly walked out, I stood alone near the back pew. Patty came over, bent down in front of me, took both my hands in hers, and looked straight into my eyes. "I promised your mother I would always protect you," she said softly. "Always remember that." I nodded. I did not fully understand what she meant. What I did not know, what I would not find out for many years, was that in her final weeks, my mom had asked Patty to become my legal godmother. She signed official paperwork, real documents, not just words. At the time, it probably looked like a sweet gesture from a dying woman. But it was much more than that. My mother understood something I did not. She knew what my father might become without her there to balance him. And she was right about every fear she had. After the funeral, our house quietly split into 2 different worlds. Dalton's world had everything. He got a car for his 16th birthday. A used Mustang, but still, a car. Dad started adding money to his college fund every single month. Dalton got golf lessons at the country club where Gerald and his friends played on weekends. They took trips to visit college campuses. His bedroom was repainted twice because he did not like the first color. My world had leftovers. When I asked Dad for money for school textbooks during my sophomore year, he did not even look away from the TV. "Ask your brother," he said. I already gave him the budget. The budget? Like there was one shared pile of money, and Dalton reached it first. I started working at a coffee shop the week I turned 16. My shift started at 4:30 in the morning before school. I bought my own notebooks, my own calculator, my own winter coat when the zipper on my old one broke and no one noticed I was cold. One evening, I needed to borrow Dalton's car. I had a scholarship interview the next morning, the only real chance I had to afford college. The bus did not run early enough. I knocked on his door. "Can I borrow the car tomorrow? Just 2 hours," I asked. He did not look up from his phone. "I need it. Take the bus. The bus doesn't run at 6 a.m. He shrugged. "Not my problem." So I walked 2.5 miles in the dark that morning to get to that interview. I got the scholarship. Years later, when Patty helped me look through old bank statements, I found out something that hurt more than anything else. My mother had set up a college fund for me too, the exact same amount as Dalton's. After she died, Gerald quietly moved every dollar into Dalton's account. Every single dollar. He did not even wait a year. I graduated high school on a warm Saturday in June, summa cum laude, National Honor Society, a full scholarship to a state university. Gerald took Dalton to a basketball game that afternoon. I walked across the stage almost alone. When I looked up into the bleachers filled with families holding flowers and balloons, I found one face. Patty, 3rd row, left side. She clapped so hard her shoulders shook. A single sunflower rested in her lap. That night, I packed 2 suitcases. Gerald sat in the living room watching Sports Center. I walked past him with my bags. He glanced at me. "You leaving?" he asked. "Yes." "Lock the door on your way out." That was it. No hug, no good luck. No call me when you arrive. Just lock the door. I rented a tiny room above a laundromat in a college town 40 minutes away. I worked 2 jobs. Coffee. Shop in the mornings. Restaurant at night. I studied in between. On good nights, I slept 4 hours. Patty offered to help me with money. She sat me at her kitchen table, pulled out her checkbook and said, "Your mother left something with me for you. Let me use it." I shook my head. "No. I need to do this myself. If I take your money, I will never know if I can survive on my own." She slowly closed the checkbook. She did not argue. She just smiled softly. "You sound exactly like your mother." I got my real estate license at 22, closed my first sale at 23. By 26, I had my first 6-figure year. 10 years after I locked that door behind me, I stood in front of a beautiful 4-bedroom house worth $770,000 and signed my name on the deed. But not for myself. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. I had not heard from Gerald in almost 3 years. No birthday messages, no Thanksgiving invitations, no simple "how are you?" Nothing. Then suddenly, "Sierra, it's your father." He did not ask how I was doing. He did not ask about my job or my life. He got straight to the point. "Your brother needs a place. He's getting serious with a girl from a good family. He can't be renting some small apartment. Help him out. Not, would you consider, not, if you're able. Just help him out. Like I was a repair tool and something in his life was broken. I was 29. I had closed over 40 deals that year. I had savings. I had built my reputation from nothing. Every piece of my life had been earned without help from the man on the phone. And still, some small part of me thought, maybe this time. Maybe if I do this, they will finally see me. Maybe if I give enough, I will finally be enough. So I bought the house. A 4-bedroom colonial in a quiet suburb. New roof. Large yard. $770,000. I kept the deed in my name. That was the one smart decision I made, and honestly, it was not even my idea. When I told Patty what I planned to do, she set her coffee cup down very slowly and looked at me carefully. "You are trying to buy his love," she said gently. "It does not work like that." "I know," I replied. "Do you?" she asked. "Promise me you will keep your name on that deed." She watched me like someone watching a person walk too close to a cliff. "Promise me." "I promise." Dalton moved in a week later. He never once asked whose name was on the paperwork. At first the changes were small. So small I almost ignored them. That first Thanksgiving after he moved in, I called to ask what time dinner would be. "Oh," he said casually, "Nicole's family is coming this year. We don't really have enough chairs. Maybe next time." Next time. Christmas came. "We're going to the Ashfords' house this year," he said. "Their place is bigger. You know how it is. Gerald's birthday in February." "Just a small dinner," Dalton said. "Didn't want to make a big event." Each time there was a reason, and every reason sounded reasonable enough if I did not think too deeply about it. But I did think about it. Dalton was dating Nicole Ashford. Her family had serious money, country club memberships, charity galas. Their last name was printed on a hospital wing. From what I heard, Nicole was kind. Dalton, though, was playing a role. The loving son from a close family. The kind of man a wealthy family would happily welcome. And I did not fit into that picture. He slowly removed me from the story, like someone carefully editing an old photograph. One night in December, I was scrolling through Nicole's Instagram when I saw it. A photo of Dalton, Gerald, Nicole, and her parents standing around the dining table inside my house. The Christmas garland I had chosen hung along the banister. The candles I paid for were glowing on the mantel. The caption read, "Family Christmas at our home. Just us, a small family, and that's all we need." Our home. Small family. I stared at that picture for at least 30 seconds. Then I took a screenshot and saved it in a folder I had not named yet. I did not know exactly why I was saving it, but something deep inside me told me to keep it. The phone call that finally changed everything did not come from Dalton or Gerald. It came from Rachel Park, a colleague at my brokerage. We had closed many deals together. She was sharp and honest. "Sierra," she said carefully one afternoon, "this is a little awkward. But does your brother live in that old colonial house on Maple Street?" "Yes." "Why are you asking?" "Because someone who matched his description came into a consultation with Jim Bowden's firm last week asking about adverse possession." My stomach instantly felt heavy. Adverse possession. It's a legal idea. If someone stays in a property long enough, openly and continuously, without the real owner objecting, they can later try to file a claim to become the legal owner. It takes many years. The exact time depends on the state, but Dalton was asking about it. He was searching for a way to take my house from me legally. I called Patty that same night. She confirmed what I was already afraid of. If he files the correct paperwork and you don't challenge it, in a few years he could try to build a case, she said. "It's unlikely, but the fact that he's asking about it tells you something." It told me everything. I wasn't only losing a house. I was losing the story I had built in my head. That somewhere under all the silence and all the excuses, my family still wanted me. That the house was meant to connect us, not divide us. That blood meant something real, but I didn't move forward, not yet. There was one more test in my mind. The wedding. Dalton and Nicole got engaged in January. The wedding was planned for June. 200 guests. I told myself, if he invites me, then there is still hope. If he includes me on the biggest day of his life, then maybe I misunderstood everything. The invitations went out in March, 200 of them. Not one had my name on it. I found out from Karen Webb, my oldest friend. We had known each other since middle school. She was one of the few people who knew both sides of my family's history, and she never let me pretend things were fine when they clearly were not. She called me on a Thursday afternoon, sounding happy and completely unaware. "Hey, I got the invitation, so are you giving a speech or anything?" The silence lasted about 6 seconds. She understood before I even spoke. "Sierra, you got an invite, right?" "No, you're joking. I'm not." She sent me a picture of the invitation. Thick cream cardstock with gold lettering pressed into it. Dalton Andrew Mercer and Nicole Elizabeth Ashford. June 15th, 200 guests. Reception to follow at the couple's home. The couple's home. My house. Called Dalton. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I called again. Same result. I texted him. I saw the invite. Am I coming? 3 hours. 3 full hours of staring at my phone like it owed me something. Then the message finally came. "Sierra, we talked about this. The guest list is tight. Nicole's family comes first. Don't make this about you. We talked about this. We had never talked about this. We never talked about anything because he stopped answering my calls 2 years ago." I typed back the only sentence that mattered. "The wedding is at my house, Dalton." The read receipt appeared right away. "It's been my house for 2 years. Everyone knows that." I read that sentence 3 times. Each time something different inside me broke. The first time, it broke the sister in me. The second time, it broke the peacemaker. The third time, It broke the last part of me that still believed giving was enough to earn love. I put the phone down, and for the first time in years, I began thinking clearly. I called Gerald the next morning. He answered on the second ring, which told me he had expected the call. "Dad, did you know I'm not invited?" "Your brother's wedding. His rules." "It's my house, Dad." "You gave it to him." "That's not true. I let him stay." "There. Same difference. It is not the same." There was a pause. I could hear the television in the background. He had not even muted it. "Sierra, don't start. You always do this." "Do what?" "Turn everything into drama. Just let your brother be happy for once." For once. As if Dalton had ever been refused anything in his life. As if happiness was a pie and only one slice existed and it already had Dalton's name written on it. "What about me?" I asked quietly. The silence stretched long enough for me to hear the sports announcer describing a play. Then he spoke. Softly. Almost kindly. Which somehow hurt more. "You'll be fine. You always are." He hung up. I sat on my kitchen floor for a long time after that. I wasn't crying. I was just sitting there, holding the phone in my lap like it was something lifeless. "You'll be fine. You always are." He said it as if it were praise, as if my ability to survive everything they handed to me was a gift, not a wound. As if landing on my feet every time made it acceptable to keep pushing me off the edge. Those 6 words were the cruelest thing my father ever said to me. Not because he was shouting. Because he was calm. Because he truly believed them. In his mind, those words gave permission. Permission to stop showing up for me. Permission to never defend me. Permission to let me handle everything alone. And that is exactly what he did. I did something I am not proud of. I wrote Dalton a long message. It was not angry. It was not begging. It was honest. I told him about every holiday I spent alone. Every phone call he ignored. Every time I defended him to other people because the truth was too painful to say out loud. I told him about the college fund Dad took from me. I told him I bought that house because I believed it would bring us closer together. Then I asked one simple question. "Do you actually want me out of your life? Or have you just been so comfortable that you forgot I'm still here?" He read it. The little check mark turned blue. He never answered. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a number I did not recognize. "Hi, Sierra. This is Nicole." My chest tightened immediately. "Dalton told me you've been pressuring him about the wedding. I understand you feel excluded, but this is our special day. Please respect our wishes." Then another message followed. "We appreciate the house, but don't use it as leverage." I read that sentence twice. Don't use it as leverage. Dalton had not only left me out, he had created a story. In his version of events, I was the difficult sister. The one who could not move on. The one who used money to control people. He had flipped everything. He turned me from the person who gave everything into the person who used everything, and Nicole believed him. Of course she did. She had never met me. She did not even know I existed until I became an issue. I placed my phone on the counter and looked up at the ceiling. I did not cry. For the first time in my life, I did not cry. Something shifted inside my chest. Not anger, not sadness. Something colder, something steady. It felt like a lock quietly turning shut on a door I had been holding open for 17 years. I opened my laptop. I searched for Russell Tate's phone number. When I called Patty at 9 that night, she did not say, "I warned you." I told her everything. The invitation, the texts, Gerald's 6 words, Nicole's message, what Dalton had been telling people, the question about adverse possession. Then I finally said what I had been afraid to say out loud. "I think I've been foolish, Patty." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You were not foolish. You were a daughter who loved her family. That is not weakness, Sierra. That is who your mother raised." I pressed my fist against my mouth to stay steady. The deed, she said. It's still in your name? Yes. Good. That is what matters most right now. The next morning, I sat across from Russell Tate in his downtown office. He was in his mid-50s with reading glasses hanging on a chain, the kind of lawyer who speaks slowly and carefully, like every word costs money but is worth it. He looked over everything for about 20 minutes. The deed, the property records, the tax documents. Everything was in my name. There was no lease with Dalton, no rental agreement, no written permission at all. Russell looked up. Who has been paying the property taxes? I have. Every single year. The mortgage was paid. In full at closing. It's mine completely. He removed his glasses. Ms. Mercer, your brother has no legal claim to this property. No lease, no contract, no shared ownership. Legally, he is a guest in your house. Nothing more. A guest. Dalton had been living in a $700,000 home, hosting Christmas parties, planning his wedding there, telling everyone it was his. And legally, he was simply a guest. I asked one question. If I sell it, can he stop me? No. That single word sat in the room like a heavy stone dropped into calm water. 2 days later, Karen called again with something that took the air out of my lungs. I need to tell you something, she said carefully. I was at the engagement party last month at the Ashfords Club. I had not been invited to that either. Of course not. Dalton gave a toast, she continued. He thanked Gerald. He called him my only family. And when Nicole's uncle asked if he had siblings, she paused. He said, just me. Only child. I closed my eyes. Sierra? Are you still there? I'm here. That night I did. Something I had avoided for 2 years. I went through everything online. Nicole's social media, Dalton's pages, every photo, every tag, every comment. Nicole's feed showed vacations with Dalton, dinners with Gerald, holidays at the house. Not one photo included me. Not one mention of my name. Dalton's feed was worse. He had gone back and deleted or cropped every old family photo that had me in it. Birthday parties, Thanksgivings, even pictures from our mother's memorial service. It was like I had been erased carefully, piece by piece, until there was no proof left that I had ever belonged there at all. In every photo, I was simply missing, like someone had trimmed me out with scissors. Then I found the post that made my hands tremble. Nicole, 6 months ago. A picture of Gerald sitting at the dining table laughing, wine glass lifted. The caption said, "So thankful for Dalton's dad, Gerald, the kindest father-in-law. Just us, a small family, and that's all we need." But the post that truly broke me was older. Dalton replying to a comment under a photo of the house. Someone had written, "Beautiful place. How did you manage it?" And Dalton answered, "Dad helped us out. Family takes care of family." Dad helped us out. He gave Gerald credit for my house, and Gerald allowed it. I took screenshots of everything, saved all of it, closed my laptop slowly. He didn't just remove me. He changed the whole story. And in his version, I had never existed at all. I sat in my apartment for a long time that night. The lights were off. Only the soft glow of the street lamp came through the window, and a framed photo of my mother sat on the shelf near the door. She was 31 in that picture, the same age I am now, holding me as a baby, smiling like life was simple and clear. I thought about what she would say if she could see this. The house, the silence, the edited photos, the lies. And I heard her voice. Not out loud, but the way you hear someone you have loved so deeply that their words live inside you forever. Don't let anyone tell you you're not worthy. I picked up my phone. I called Russell. List the house. There was a pause. Are you sure? Once it's done, there's no going back. I'm sure. It took 3 weeks. Russell found a buyer, a young couple moving from another state. They loved the house. They offered full asking price, no conditions, clean deal. Closing date, June 14th, 1 day before the wedding. I signed the papers in Russell's office on a Tuesday afternoon. The house officially changed owners at 4:17 p.m. It was no longer mine, which meant it was no longer Dalton's to stand in. Russell prepared the notice to vacate. 30 days, standard, completely legal. I chose the delivery date carefully, June 15th, the morning of the wedding. Patty sat with me that evening. She didn't talk much. She just poured 2 glasses of wine and waited quietly. "How do you want to do this?" she asked. Quietly, I said. "I just want him to know the truth." I sat there long after. She left. I wasn't happy. I wasn't crying. I felt empty. Like I had cut away a piece of myself that had been dead for years. But I had been too afraid to let it go. If you've ever had to choose between loyalty and self-respect, you know exactly what that feels like. Would you have done the same? I would really like to hear your answer. June 15th, Saturday, 82 degrees, clear sky. I drove to the neighborhood at 6:30 in the evening, not to the house itself, but to the end of the block where I could see the driveway from far away. I parked under an oak tree and turned off the engine. The house looked beautiful. I will admit that. White lights were hanging along the fence. Lanterns lined the walkway. Cars filled the street. BMWs, a couple of Mercedes, a black Escalade that I assumed belonged to Margaret Ashford. Through the open windows, I could hear soft jazz music, laughter, glasses touching. 200 people celebrating inside a house they believed belonged to the groom. My phone rang. Karen. "I'm inside," she whispered. "Sierra, it's stunning. The flowers, the food. There's a string quartet on the patio. He looks so happy. He's wearing a gray suit. Nicole looks incredible. They just had their first dance." She paused. "Sierra, I'm so sorry you're not here." "It's okay," I said, and that was a lie. But sometimes lies are just small kindnesses you give yourself to survive. Then Karen said the thing that made everything final. He just gave his speech. He thanked Gerald for, and I'm quoting, "giving me everything, including this beautiful home." Gerald stood up and took a bow. Everyone clapped. I held the steering wheel tightly. "And Sierra, he said he wishes his mom could be here. He said, she's the only one missing tonight." The only one missing. I was 200 yards away, sitting in a parked car on a public street, listening to my brother erase me in real time from a stage built inside a house I paid for. And according to him, the only empty chair at that wedding belonged to a woman who died 17 years ago. I wasn't missing. I was erased. And now it was time for me to remove myself completely from the equation. I called Russell at 8:41 p.m. "Send it." "You're certain?" "Yes." Russell sent 2 things at the same time. First, the official notice to vacate delivered to the property address by courier with signature confirmation. 30 days, standard, legal. Second, 1 email to Dalton, Gerald, and Nicole. All 3 together. 1 message. I had written it the night before. Edited it 4 times. Every version became shorter. The final draft was 6 lines. The property at 114 Maple Rest Drive has been sold. The transaction closed on June 14th. You have 30 days to vacate. Attached are 1. A copy of the deed in my name. 2. The signed sale agreement. 3. The formal notice to vacate. I wish you both a happy marriage. Sierra. No exclamation marks, no anger, no blame, no emotion, just facts, documents, and a deadline. I attached 3 PDFs. The deed, my name clear as daylight. The sale contract, buyer, price, closing date, finished. The 30-day notice printed on Russell's firm letterhead. Every box checked, every line legal. I pressed send at 8:47 p.m. The jazz music was still playing. I could hear it faintly through the open windows 200 yards away. Someone laughed loudly. A bright, cheerful champagne laugh. The kind of laugh people have at weddings when they believe everything is perfect. I turned the key in the ignition. I drove home. I didn't check my phone. I didn't call Karen. I didn't call Patty. I didn't look back in the mirror. I walked into my apartment. I washed my face. I brushed my teeth. I got into bed and slept deeply, fully, without dreams for the first time in months. Whatever was happening in that house now, it was no longer my house, and it was no longer my problem. Karen called at 9 the next morning. I made coffee first. Then I answered. "Sierra, oh my God, tell me," she told me. Around 9 p.m., 12 minutes after I sent the email, Dalton pulled his phone from his jacket during a toast from Nicole's uncle. He glanced at the screen. Then he turned white. Not red, not embarrassed. White, like all the blood had drained, from his face at once. He excused himself and found Gerald near the bar. Karen was close enough to hear Gerald say, "What do you mean, sold?" Then Dalton whispered something she couldn't hear, and Gerald's jaw tightened sharply. They moved into the hallway. The argument was quiet and controlled, the way men argue when they are surrounded by people they need to impress. But their body language said everything. Gerald pointing his finger toward the floor, Dalton pressing his palm against the wall, like he needed it to stay standing. Nicole noticed. Of course she did. It was her wedding day. She walked over in her white dress and touched Dalton's arm. "What's wrong?" "It's nothing. You look like you're going to faint." She saw the phone in his hand. She took it gently. She read the email. The hallway became very still. "Who is Sierra Mercer?" Nicole asked. Dalton opened his mouth. Nothing came out for 3 full seconds. "Who?" she repeated. "Nobody," he said. Nicole looked at the attachment. The deed. My name. "The deed says Sierra Mercer. The address we are standing in says Sierra Mercer. You told me this was your father's house." Dalton reached for the phone. Nicole pulled it back. Margaret Ashford appeared at the end of the hallway. Silk dress, pearl earrings, a face that could read a room from 40 feet away. "What is happening?" she asked calmly. Nicole turned the phone toward her mother. Margaret read it carefully. She looked at Dalton. She looked at Gerald. Then she picked up her clutch and walked toward the front door. But she did not leave. She stopped, turned around slowly, walked back. That was worse. She stood in front of Dalton in the foyer where the string quartet had been playing 10 minutes earlier. A dozen guests nearby were pretending not to stare. "My daughter asked you a simple question," Margaret said. "Who is Sierra Mercer?" Dalton ran his hand through his hair. He tried to smile. It failed. "It's complicated," he said. "She's a distant relative." Karen stepped forward. She told me later she hadn't planned to. But she had 2 glasses of champagne in her and 17 years of watching me disappear, and something inside her finally broke. "She's his sister," Karen said clearly. "His younger sister, and she's the one who bought this house." The room went silent. Not dramatic movie silent. Real silence. The kind where you can hear someone's shoe move on the wooden floor. Margaret looked at Gerald slowly. "You have a daughter?" Gerald straightened his back. Old habits do not disappear easily. This was called family business. It officially became my family's business the second my daughter married into your lies. The word lies hit the room like a sharp slap across the face. Gerald actually flinched. He physically flinched. I had never seen him react like that to anything in my whole life, and I was not even there in the room. But Karen described it so clearly and with so much detail that I could picture it in my mind like I had been standing right beside her. Nicole stood between her mother and her husband. Karen said she looked like someone watching her own house burn down in front of her and being unable to stop it. Slowly, she turned toward Dalton. "You told me you were an only child." Her voice was not loud, but it carried. "Nicole, let me explain. You told me your father bought this house. It's not what else did you lie about?" That question stayed in the air. It was not only about the house. It was not only about me. It was about everything. The full foundation of their marriage, only 1 day old, was splitting apart in front of 200 guests. Karen said Dalton's face moved through 3 clear stages. First, denial. He pointed at Karen like she had just pulled a fire alarm for no reason. Karen doesn't know what she's talking about. She's Sierra's friend. She's biased. Karen did not move. I went to high school with both of you, Dalton. I was at your mother's funeral. I watched you eat dinner at Sierra's table for 16 years. Second, deflection. Dalton turned toward the crowd, toward the guests, toward anyone who would meet his eyes. He lifted his hand slightly like he was trying to calm a room. Sierra's always been like this. She's jealous. She's trying to destroy my wedding because she cannot stand seeing me happy. Margaret's voice cut through the noise. She didn't. Come to your wedding, Dalton. You made sure she wasn't invited. Third, collapse. Dalton looked at Gerald the way a small child looks at a parent when a teacher catches them cheating on a test. Help me fix this. Gerald did not move. His mouth became a thin, straight line. His hands stayed deep in his pockets. For the first time in my life, at least in Karen's retelling, Gerald Mercer had absolutely nothing to say. No lecture, no redirection, no comment about how this was private family business. Just silence from a man who had spent 63 years always needing to have the final word. Nicole slowly stood up from the chair someone had brought for her. She gently smoothed the front of her dress. She did not scream. She did not cry. She simply said in a very soft voice, "I need some air." She walked outside. 2 of her bridesmaids followed her, then her aunt, then her cousin. Then Margaret, who stopped at the door and looked back at Gerald with an expression that Karen described as the closing of a long chapter. The DJ had stopped the music 20 minutes earlier. No one asked him to turn it back on. Dalton stood alone in the entryway. Guests walked past him in small, quiet groups, picking up coats and handbags. No one said goodbye. No one wished him well. The last car drove away at 11:14 p.m. Gerald called me at 7 the next morning. It was Sunday. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and the newspaper open in front of me. I let the phone ring twice before answering. "What did you do?" His voice was low and shaking, not from sadness but from anger. "I sold my house, Dad. You ruined your brother's wedding." "No, I sold my property. That is my legal right. You need to fix this. Call the buyer. Undo the sale. It's finished, Dad. It is not my house anymore. You did this just to hurt him." I placed my coffee cup down carefully. "No, I did this because he erased me. You both did." Silence filled the line. I could hear him breathing. Heavy and uneven. The breathing of a man who was not used to losing control of a conversation. Then he used the last weapon he had. "Your mother would be ashamed of you." There it was. The final card. The memory of a dead woman who could not speak for herself, used by the same man who had broken every promise he ever made to her. My voice did not shake. It did not rise. I want that on record. He said nothing. Mom would be ashamed of what you did to her daughter. Nothing. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. "Don't call me again, Sierra. I wasn't planning to, Dad." He hung up. I stayed there at the table. The coffee turned cold. The newspaper remained unread. The apartment was quiet in a way only empty spaces can be quiet, a quiet that feels heavy in your chest. That was the last real conversation I had with my father. It was not the last time he tried to reach me. Those attempts came later through other people, in softer voices and careful words. But it was the last time I picked up the phone for Gerald Mercer. Some doors shut with a loud slam. This one closed with a soft click, and I was the one who turned the key. Dalton called on Monday afternoon. I almost ignored it. But I realized I needed to hear what he would say. Not because I believed anything would change. Not for hope. For closure. "You can't do this." His voice was rough and hoarse, like he had spent the night arguing, crying, or doing both. "This is my home, Sierra. It was never your home, Dalton. It was mine. I allowed you to live there. I'll sue you. Go ahead. The deed is in my name. It has always been. Silence. Then the change came. I had been waiting for it. The moment he switched, from anger to charm, from weapon to strategy. Sierra, come on. His tone softened. It almost sounded warm. We're family. I know things haven't been perfect, but we can work this out. I'll talk to Nicole. We'll invite you over for dinner. We can... You told your wife I don't exist. The sentence stood between us like a solid wall. I can explain. You don't need to. I understand clearly. Sierra, please. Nicole is furious. Her mom won't answer my calls. If you could just... Just what? Fix it for you like I always have? He did not respond. You have 30 days. That's the law. I suggest you use them wisely. Where are we supposed to go? That is not my responsibility anymore, Dalton. Another pause. Then quietly. And this was the part that almost reached me. I'm sorry. 2 words. 17 years too late. Sorry for what? I asked. And he could not answer. He truly could not name what he was apologizing for. Because naming it would mean admitting it happened. And admitting it happened would mean he was not the victim. Goodbye, Dalton. I ended the call. My hand was steady. My chest hurt deeply, but my hand did not shake. And that mattered more. Russell called Wednesday morning to confirm what I already understood. The sale is fully recorded, title transferred, funds deposited into your account. A short pause. It's done, Sierra. Clean and legal. Clean and legal. 3 simple words that somehow felt heavier than the $770,000 sitting in my bank account. Dalton hired a lawyer. Of course he did. Gerald probably paid for it. But it did not matter. Later, Russell told me through a colleague that Dalton's attorney reviewed the paperwork for about 15 minutes before giving the final answer. You don't have a case. She owned the property. There was no lease, no rental contract, no written agreement of any kind. You have no legal standing. Dalton had lived in my house for 2 years. He decorated it. He hosted holidays there. He planned his wedding there. He told 200 people it was his house. And legally, he had nothing. Not one piece of paper with his name on it. Because he never thought to ask. Because it never crossed his mind that the sister he erased might one day need proof that she existed. He had 30 days to move out. Him and Nicole, newly married, packing their things into boxes. Nicole did not file for divorce. I was relieved about that. Not for Dalton's sake, but because I did not want to be the explosive device that destroyed a marriage. What I wanted was the truth placed openly on the table. What happened after that was between them. But Nicole had conditions. Karen heard, through mutual friends, that there would be couples therapy, full financial transparency, and a direct conversation with me. The last condition was my choice. Nicole reached out through Karen. Tell her I appreciate the offer, I said. But not now. Maybe not ever. That decision belongs to me. It was the first time in my life I made a choice about my family without wondering if they would approve. It felt like breathing after holding my breath underwater for 17 years. Here is the thing about 200 witnesses. You cannot put the truth back into the bottle once it is released. Within a week, the story had moved through every circle Dalton and Gerald had carefully built over the years. The country club, the neighborhood, Gerald's golf group, Nicole's sorority friends, Dalton's co-workers. The details changed slightly, depending on who told it, but the main structure stayed the same. The groom's sister bought him a house. The family erased her. She sold the house on his wedding day. Every version ended the same way, with a low whistle, or a slow shake of the head. Margaret Ashford told her book club. Karen confirmed that part. Margaret's exact words were simple. If he lied about having a sister, what else could he be hiding? That sentence moved through the Ashford social circle like a fast fire in dry grass. By the end of the month, Dalton had changed from being seen as a great catch to being the man Margaret's daughter should have investigated more carefully. Gerald struggled most in public. His golf friends, men he had known for decades, started asking questions he could not answer. One of them, a retired judge named Walter, said it directly to his face during lunch. "You pushed out your own daughter. Jerry, the one who bought your son his house." Gerald left the restaurant before the bill even arrived. Karen heard that story from someone else. But I believe it, because Gerald's entire identity was built around being a respected man, a good father, a provider, a man in control. And now the people he respected most were looking at him differently. Not seeing the strong family man he always claimed to be, but seeing someone who erased his own daughter and tried to pretend she never existed. Dalton and Nicole moved into a 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. No backyard, no hanging lights, no patio big enough for a string quartet. The house on Mapler Drive, my house once, now belonged to the Brennan family, a young couple with 2 small kids. They painted the front door red. I drove past it one time, just once. The red actually looked good. Patty told me about it about a week later. She had asked Gerald to meet her at a coffee shop downtown, a public place, neutral space. He showed up, which surprised her. She said, "He looked older, like 10 years had landed on him in 10 days. She didn't slowly build up to it. Patty never did that. She said it straight. Linda asked me to watch over Sierra. Do you know why? Because she knew you wouldn't." Gerald's hand tightened around his coffee cup. "Don't bring Linda into this. Linda is already in this. She was always in this. She saw what you were doing before she died. She told me." He asked, "She told you what?" Patty said she looked right at him and said, "That you had already chosen Dalton. That you had already decided Sierra came second. She made me promise not only to look after that girl, but to be prepared, because she knew." Gerald stared down at the table. Patty said his jaw kept moving, the muscles shifting like he was chewing on words he could not force himself to say. She didn't stop. She told him, "She didn't ask me to be Sierra's godmother because it was a family tradition, Gerald. She asked me because she was scared of what you might do to that girl when she wasn't there anymore to protect her." Then, she paused and added, "And she was right." Gerald stood up. He didn't shove the chair back. He just stood, like a man rising from a church bench. He placed a $20 bill on the table and walked out without looking back once. Patty called me that evening. Her voice was calm but quiet, the kind of quiet that comes when someone has been carrying something heavy for a long time and finally sets it down. She said, "I told him what your mother would have said. The rest is up to him now." After we hung up, I kept the phone against my ear for a long time. My mother had been gone for 17 years, and she was still somehow protecting me. Some people leave. Written instructions. My mother left armor. People always ask about the money. $770,000 is a big amount. They want to know if I kept it all, if I spent it fast, if it felt like winning some kind of prize. It didn't feel like a prize. It felt like getting something back that was always supposed to be mine. It felt like a refund. I paid off the rest of my student loans, the ones I had to take because my college fund was empty before I ever saw a single dollar of it. That felt fair. That felt like finishing a circle that had been left open too long. After that, I sat down with Patty and Russell and we created something new. The Linda Mercer Foundation, a scholarship fund for young women who lost their mothers early and were trying to build a life on their own. Not just money for college classes, but help with licensing fees, certification costs, deposits for first month's rent, and other real-life expenses. The practical things nobody talks about when they say, "Just work hard and everything will work out." I didn't name it after myself. I named it after the woman who could see 17 years into the future and made a plan to protect a daughter she would not live long enough to raise. Patty took care of the legal details. Russell handled the documents. I put in 1/3 of the money from selling the house. There was no press release, no big event, no social media announcement, just paperwork, a bank account, and a clear purpose. With what was left, I bought a house, a small one, 2 bedrooms, a porch, and a kitchen window that faces east, so the morning sunlight pours in while I drink my coffee. The deed is in my name. Only my name. The day I moved in, I opened one box before I opened anything else. Inside was the framed picture of my mother. She was 31 in that photo, holding me, smiling like the world had not yet taken anything from her. I placed it on the shelf near the front door so she would be the first thing I see when I come home. This time, I said out loud to the empty house, I bought a home for myself. 3 months went by. Dalton and Nicole stayed together. I heard through Karen that Nicole had set very clear conditions. Therapy every single week with no skipping. Full financial honesty. Every account, every debt, every dollar explained. And a real conversation about his family. All of it, no leaving parts out. Dalton agreed to everything. Whether he actually followed through was no longer something I worried about. He sent me a letter, handwritten. That surprised me. It was 2 pages long. The handwriting was uneven and messy, like someone writing quickly because they are scared they might lose courage if they slow down. He didn't exactly say sorry. He wrote, I know I messed up. He wrote, I don't know how to make this right. He wrote, Nicole keeps asking about you, and I don't know what to tell her because I don't really know you anymore, and that's my fault. I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully and placed it in the drawer of my nightstand. I did not write back. Not because I hated him, but because I wasn't ready. And for the first time in my life, I allowed not ready to be a full answer. I did not explain it. I did not defend it. I just let it be enough. Gerald did not reach out at all. No letter, no phone call, no message sent through anyone else, just silence. The same silence he had given me for most of my life. Only now it felt different. Now it was the only language he had left. I did not wait for him to break. And I was finished with waiting. Thursday nights became my steady ground. Patty and I had dinner together every week. Sometimes at her house, sometimes at mine. Sometimes at the small Italian restaurant on Elm, where the owner knew exactly what we would order before we sat down. Sometimes Karen joined us. Sometimes Russell came with his wife. We would eat, talk, and laugh about things that had nothing to do with Dalton or Gerald or the house on Mapler Drive. We talked about work, about movies, about small daily problems that felt normal and safe. This was my family now. Not the one I was born into, but the one I chose and built. And no one at that table ever asked me to prove that I deserved to sit there. I am standing on my porch as I finish telling you this. It is a small porch, only. Big enough for 2 chairs and a planter that I keep forgetting to water. The house behind me is not large or fancy, but the deed has my name on it. The mortgage is paid. And no one inside these walls has ever told me that I do not belong here. I used to believe that family meant sacrifice. I thought if I gave enough money, enough patience, enough quiet acceptance, the people who shared my blood would finally see me. I was wrong. Not about giving. I was wrong about who I was giving to. I did not sell that house because I was angry. I sold it because I finally understood that I am worth more than being a guest in my own life. I deserve a place at the table. Not because I paid for the table, but because I am a human being who matters. If you are part of a family where you are always the one giving and never the one receiving, where your love is treated like something they can cancel when it becomes inconvenient, you do not need their permission to stop. You do not need them to admit they hurt you before you are allowed to heal. A boundary is not a brick wall, it is a door, and you are the one who decides who is allowed to walk through it. I do not know what will happen next with Dalton. Maybe one day I will be ready to sit across from him and truly listen. Maybe that day will never come. Both options are allowed. I do not know what Gerald will choose either. I have stopped trying to guess the actions of a man who never learned how to really see me. Maybe Patty's words planted a seed in him. Maybe they did not. That work belongs to him, not to me. What I do know is this. I am 31 years old. I have a home that belongs to me. I have people in my life who chose me freely. I have my mother's name on a foundation that helps young women who remind me of who I was at 18, alone, struggling, broke, but not destroyed. If you have ever had to choose between holding on to your family and holding on to yourself, I want to hear about it. Share your story in the comments. I will be reading them. Thank you for staying with me through this entire story. If it touched something inside you, press the like button and subscribe. Not just because I asked, but because someone you know might need to hear this too. Share it with them. And if you are ready for another story about standing firm and finding the place where you truly belong, there is a link waiting in the description. I will meet you there. Take care of yourself. And remember, you were never too much. They were simply offering too little. I will see you in the next one.
If you like our video, subscribe our YouTube channel for more.